Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. I offer my devoted pranams to Sri Ramakrishna, Srimad Sarada Devi and Swami Vivekananda. I offer my devoted pranams to Revered Swami Sarvapriyanandaji Maharaj, who has very graciously agreed to give a talk in our center here in Geneva, while he is on a very short visit to this city to give a talk today in the Permanent Mission of India in the afternoon and tomorrow in the UN. Maharaj will give a 1-hour talk on the Isha Upanishad, the truth of oneness that has been revealed in the Upanishads, and after that we'll have a half an hour question and answer session. As the custom is, I would like to welcome Revered Maharaj to our center by offering him a ceremonial gift. We have a very humble small bouquet with a flower from our garden. And a few Swiss chocolates. On behalf of all of you, as our tradition is, I offer pranams to him and welcome him.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Revered Swami Sarvapriyanandaji Maharaj is the minister in charge of our Vedanta Center in New York, a very well-known speaker all over the world and watched immensely in the social media and YouTube. Maharaj is very learned, and when we ask ChatGPT or OpenAI, what is the specialty of Swami Sarvapriyanandaji? And the first thing that OpenAI tells us that he explains the intrinsic ideas of Advaita Vedanta in a very simple and understandable way, which is wonderful. And I think this was the mission of Swami Vivekananda. He said that Vedanta should be put in a way that even a child can understand. And I think Maharaj is really trying it very sincerely, and as we all know, he is quite successful in that. So with prayers for him to Sri Ramakrishna, Srimad Sarada Devi and Swami Vivekananda, I request him to start our today's talk by him on the Isha Upanishad.
Thank you for that very generous welcome. Swami Vedanishtanandaji, you have a dynamic young Swami now in the Vedanta Center in Geneva. So I would expect all of us here to be of whatever help we can to the Swami in order to spread Vedanta in Geneva and in Switzerland and indeed other parts of Europe and the world. As he said, the theme today is oneness. And I don't know, he said that I can explain Vedanta to a child, and I'm supposed to be able to explain Vedanta well or easily, but I'm not going to make it easy today. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to enjoy myself. And I invite you to participate, to walk along and to see if you can participate in this joy of Vedanta, the joy of oneness. As Maharaj said, Vedanta and oneness. In fact, one word in which you can express Vedanta is oneness. Swami Vivekananda, according to him, what is Vedanta? Vedanta is the divinity within ourselves, who we are, and the oneness of all existence. So oneness is a very good way of expressing Vedanta. there is one of the Upanishads, the Isha Upanishad. The Upanishads are important because Vedanta is supposed to be the Upanishads. What is Vedanta if you ask textually? The immediate answer is Upanishads. Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. Vedanta is the source of spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads. In these Upanishads, one of the famous Upanishads is the Isha Upanishad. Mahatma Gandhi was recorded as saying that if all the texts of the Hindus were to disappear and only the first mantra of the Isha Upanishad were to remain, then all of Hinduism would remain. That is the importance of the Isha Upanishad. And the first mantra, very famous mantra of the Upanishad, what does it say? Isha vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagattena tyaktena vunjitha ma gridha kasya svidhanam. Very profound verse. It says, this entire world of the moving and the unmoving, this entire universe which we are experiencing, everything here has to be covered by the divine. Call it God, call it Brahman. In the word used in the Isha Upanishad is Isha. Isha means the Lord, the one, the inner controller, controller of everything, the Lord of everything. The entire universe has to be covered by that one divinity. And that knowledge itself constitutes renunciation. Tena tyaktena bhunjitha. So that knowledge that I see divinity everywhere, inside and outside, that itself is renunciation. What is renunciation? What does monasticism mean? Why is renunciation important for spiritual life? All those things, they come from this tena tyaktena bhunjitha. And it has been interpreted in multiple ways. I remember once, many years ago, nearly 2 decades ago, rushing very excitedly to Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, who was the General Secretary of the order at that time in Belur Mutt, and saying, here I see distinctly different explanations by Shankaracharya and by Vivekananda on this mantra, on the first one. Swami Vivekananda's very famous lecture is there, Seeing God in All. So the interpretation clearly differs from Shankaracharya's interpretation. And the Swami, senior Swami, who was the Secretary General of our order at that time, he laughed and he said, only one difference you have found. I have at least 11 different interpretations of the same mantra. But it just points to the profundity that from this deliberately, I would say, not ambiguous, sort of expansive, open, capacious mantra which can give rise, it's like a matrix which can give rise to different, all valid interpretations of Vedanta. Ma gridha kasya svidhanam, do not covet wealth, who for whose is wealth, and so on. But let us concentrate on that first line, that whatever is here, moving and unmoving, it has to be covered by the divine. The issue before us is, difference is so obvious. Difference is so obvious. We are all different from each other. Just now the Swami was saying that we have 50 people registered to come here. So clearly 50 different people. Each of us. We are sitting on a chair. The chair is different from me and the chair is different from the floor. In our own bodies also, the hands are different from the feet are different from the head. Difference is everywhere in the world. In fact, the world is not possible without difference. So how do you establish oneness? Yesterday, when coming from the airport, we took a little detour and I saw this, how this part of the city at least is pervaded by the United Nations, you know. So this effort to establish a oneness throughout the world. You know, the WHO and the International Labour Organization and so many human rights organizations. So many, the erstwhile League of Nations, now replaced by the United Nations. These are all efforts based on the principle of oneness. There's something common that to treat the whole world as one. So this issue becomes very important. How do you bridge differences? We have different nations, different languages, different cultures, and very importantly, different religions, different races, different genders, different orientations, and so on. So much tremendous difference. It's very natural. Life will have difference. But this difference leads to conflict. This difference leads to hatred and violence. One way of establishing oneness is to crush all differences. It should be one religion, not many religions. It should be one nation, not many nations. So that is the impulse behind trying to convert everybody to my religion. Or the impulse behind trying to build one empire where all nations will be pulled into. Here itself you had Napoleon in Europe who tried to do that. Even worse, Hitler who tried to do that. Yes, that is not the way to establish oneness. By crushing difference. World cannot exist without difference. And there is nothing wrong with difference. Difference is the richness of the world. The economy of God, there is variety. And variety is the essence of all. This difference is life. If you actually establish literal homogeneity, literal sameness, Vivekananda says that's another name for death. Just the end of everything. So how in the midst of this tremendous variety, how can there be oneness? This is the theme of Vedanta. This is the theme of Vedanta. There is a technical term I want to introduce from Vedanta, which sets out the problem. The technical term is Vastu Paricheda Nisheda. Vastu Paricheda Nisheda. What does it mean? Vastu means object, reality. And this clock is a Vastu, an object. This shirt is a Vastu. Our bodies are Vastus, objects. Now there is something called an object limitation. In Sanskrit, Vastu Paricheda. What does it mean? It's a simple concept, but a peculiar concept because we don't think in that way normally. Now I am inviting us to think in a different way. An object is a kind of a limitation. What do you mean? What does that mean? Things are different from each other. So a clock is different from a table, which means, in another way if I put it, a clock is not a table. A table is not a clock. The shirt is not the cap. The cap is not the shirt. The cap is just a cap and different from everything else. The shirt is just a shirt and different from everything else. The clock is just a clock and different from everything. Indeed, it is different from all other clocks also. So can we think of this as a limitation? What do I mean by limitation? This poor thing is only itself. It's not anything else. It is separated from everything else by its identity as a clock and as this clock only. This is called Vastu Paricheda, object limitation. A thing is only itself and thereby it is different from all others and thereby it becomes smaller. This is only a clock, it is not other things. This is the primary obstruction to oneness. Suppose you remove this limitation, you try to overcome this limitation. How can we find that the clock and the table and the cloth and the cap, is there oneness in all of them? Not Vastu Paricheda, not object limitation, but the negation of this object limitation. In Sanskrit, Vastu Paricheda Nisheda. These sounds like difficult philosophical words, but it's pretty simple actually. The problem is things are limited. Things are limited, why? Because they're different from each other. They're separate from each other. There's difference if we see it as a limitation, as a smallness. In that case, in order to establish oneness, one must negate, overcome this limitation. One must find some oneness in all things, without removing the distinction. Not one religion by converting everybody to my religion. Not one nation by enslaving all nations. Not one race or one gender. No, not in that way. While retaining all differences, all richness, and even more than that if necessary, and yet overcome the limitation and find oneness. Is it possible? There is one way in which it is possible. The way is to find some underlying reality. What do I mean by that? A simple example is the ocean. If you look at the ocean, or you can look at Lake Geneva right here, It's such a beautiful and huge lake. There are waves. And if you see near the shore, many waves are coming. If you try to count the waves, you'll count dozens, if not hundreds of waves. And each wave is different from the other. Different means they are different locations, sizes, movements, they're all different. You can see them differently. Here is one, there is another, there is a third one. Now, can you find some way of overcoming the difference between the waves and some sameness? Immediately we'll all say, yes, it is all Lake Geneva. It is all Lake Geneva. All the waves. They are arising in Lake Geneva, and they are existing in Lake Geneva, they are disappearing back into Lake Geneva. But then this Lake Geneva is different from other lakes. That difference still remains. You might say then, yes, but it is all water. It is all water. The moment you say it is all water, all those waves, while remaining as waves, you find something in each of them which is common to all of them. As water, they are all one. All the waves which are arising, which are playing around, which are subsiding, they are all water. You have overcome the vastu paricheda, the object limitation. This wave different from that wave, but as water, same. The water in this is also water, there is also water there. And in between, the boundary, the border, where is the maximum amount of clashes in the world today? What? Border. That is the area of friction, the boundary. They have a word called liminal, like the way the limits are. That boundary, that is the area of friction. What is the border between two waves? The waves are water. What is the border? Water. So there is no border really. It becomes one reality then. The whole of Lake Geneva becomes one reality. What is greater than the waves in Lake Geneva? Lake Geneva itself is greater than the waves in Lake Geneva. What is greater than Lake Geneva itself? The water. Because the water can exist in the lake. The water can become water vapor in the clouds. It can come down in rain in the rivers and on the earth. So the water exceeds, transcends the lake or the wave. So there is this one underlying reality. Have we grasped the example? That as water you transcend the limitations of the wave forms. Now the challenge is to find, it's very easy to give an example like water and waves. But the challenge is to find something which is common to everything. The entire universe. And the Isha Upanishad, that is the opening theme. The opening theme of the Isha Upanishad is, there is something. Like water in all the waves, there is something in all of us, all living, all human beings, all plants and animals, all living and non-living things. From the vast quarks and quasars, from the quasars down to the tiny quarks, from galaxies to a little bit of dust. There is something common to all of us. There is one reality in all of us, which we do not know. And the Isha Upanishad starts with that. That is the beginning of the Isha Upanishad. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. In all this ever-changing, tremendously divergent, different, varied reality, there is one underlying reality, a deeper reality in all of them. And that it calls Isha. The same name as God, Brahman, Allah, whatever you call it, there is a divine oneness to the entire universe, everywhere. And what do you have to do? Vasyam. A very interesting word. The Sanskrit word means to cover. But to cover, the commentator Shankaracharya explains there, what does covering mean? He says covering means uncovering. Not that here is a world of diversity. Now by force I have imagined some kind of God, and by force I am saying I am going to cover everything by God. This is God, that is God. No, not like that. That divine reality is already here, and we have to uncover it. It is as if covered by the world. It is like again wave and water. Suppose you speak in this way. Yes, there is water in all the waves, and the waves and the bubbles and the foam, they are as if covering the water. As if. The forms and activities as if they are covering the water. The water is the underlying reality. Really, of course, you will say it's not covering, it is just water. What else is it? So, there is this underlying reality. You have to cover it. The commentator Shankaracharya says, you have to uncover it. How do you uncover it? He explains further, you have to discover it. So cover it, uncover it, discover it. How do you discover? The whole of Vedanta is there. There are processes of inquiry. Those who watch these talks, those who have studied Vedanta, you know, Drishya Viveka, the way of inquiry of the seer and the seen. Pancha Kosha Viveka, the inquiry method based on the 5 levels of the human personality. The inquiry based on the 3 states of waking, dreaming, sleeping, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. These are all different ways of inquiring. Inquiring to do what? To discover this underlying reality. What is this underlying reality? And the answer from Vedanta is even more stunning. Not only the first answer is very stunning, that there is a oneness. Although we are seeing tremendous difference, there is a oneness here, and a fundamental oneness. And then the next part of it is even more stunning. This oneness which has to be discovered, what is this oneness? It is you. The Upanishad says, Tat Tvamasi. It is the self, the real nature of the self. Not the body idea of the self or the personality idea of the self. There is something which has to be discovered in ourselves. Once you discover, you will find the oneness of the entire universe. That is what we are going to investigate today. If you jump ahead in the Isha Upanishad to the 6th and 7th mantras, I will recite the mantras now, and you will immediately see what I am talking about. By saying that Isha, one divine reality in all beings, it starts with that. But in the 6th mantra, it switches to you. Instead of Isha, instead of God, instead of Paramatma, it switches to the individual, to the Jiva, to you, to the Jivatma, to the Atma. What does the mantra go like? Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmanneva anupashyati sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam tato na vijugupsate. Says, when you see all beings in the self, and the self in all beings, then because of that realization, one does not hate, one cannot hate or reject anybody or anything. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmanneva anupashyati. One who sees all beings in the self. And use these words literally. Don't use it metaphorically. Oh, there is something called Atma, sounds very fancy in Sanskrit, and everything is in that Atma. But all that is, we are distancing ourselves from it. But Vedanta says that Atma means you. It means me, our real nature. The entire universe is in. When you see the entire universe in you and yourself in the entire universe, then you will not hate, obviously. It will not only be universal brotherhood or sisterhood. It will be universal oneness. They are not only mine, you will feel the universe is mine. Not only mine, I am the universe. The universe is I am the universe. You will feel like that. And obviously, how can you hate that? And then goes on further to develop this theme in the next mantra, the 7th mantra. The 7th mantra goes like this. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmaiva abhut vijanata tatra ko moha kashoka ekatvam anupashyata. For the one for whom the entire universe has become the self, for that one, where is any more delusion, ignorance, error? For where is any more sorrow? Kashoka, where is any more sorrow? For the one who sees oneness, ekatvam anupashyata. For that one who sees oneness, see how enlightenment is defined in Vedanta. The one who sees oneness, ekatvam anupashyata. For the one who sees oneness, tatra komo akashoka ekatvam anupashyata. For the one who sees oneness, where is any more sorrow? Where is any more delusion? The whole promise of Vedanta, why did we start on this project? To overcome all suffering, to attain fulfillment, to attain bliss. In Sanskrit, ananda prapti dukkha nivritti, to overcome sorrow and attain fulfillment. And that goal is now said that you have attained that goal. Kashoka, what sorrow can there be? When the entire universe, you are identified with the entire universe. Identity is very important. Let me make a little side note about identity. Whatever we identify ourselves with, all our resources go in service of that. Whatever I identify myself with, my intellect will think accordingly, my emotions will follow that, my activities also will follow that. If I think I am the body, this body, then I will think accordingly, speak accordingly, behave accordingly, feel accordingly, and live my life accordingly. If I think I'm a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian, that is my identity. Then my thinking will be in accordance with that. Then my emotions will be in accordance with that. My behavior will be in accordance with that. If I think I am white or brown or black, my behavior, my thinking, my feelings, all will go in that identity. What we identify ourselves with, very important. The side note here, all the problems which we are facing in the world, right now if you see all the problems we are facing, it is because of this identity crisis. See the great idealism which you see reflected in the city here in Geneva, League of Nations, the United Nations, and all the great bodies of the United Nations, they are based on a great high idealism. What is the idealism? The underlying oneness of all. Then we are all in service of the all. But if I were to critique it, if you try to force that on everybody without an investigation into identity, then you will find a reaction. I feel I am a white person or a black person. Now you want me to behave, to accept everybody else as my own. I like that idea. But my identity is still that I am this race, this religion, this nationality. Not your race, not your religion, not your nationality. I deeply feel different from you. And yet my idealism, and you want me to accept the idealism of the United Nations. Now resistance will come. At one point a resistance will come. Whereas the Vedantic way is first work on the deepest thing, that is our identity. Who am I? And what Vedanta does is, it expands this identity without limit. Aham Brahmasmi, I am the infinite. When I am the infinite, after that you put any amount of United Nations and WHO and human rights and all of that, all will be happily acceptable to me. I will say yes, 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 of course, of course. Do you see the point I'm making? If you change your inner identity first, expand it, work on that first, then the rest follows easily. If we do not work on that first, and you try to impose the rest through organizations and laws, and then the resistance will come from inside. At some point, I will feel, no, you are violating my identity. Then I will push back. This is, think about this, is one interesting source of our present problems. Now, back to our Isha Upanishad. What have we got so far? Quick recap. Oneness is Vedanta. But we see diversity, we don't see oneness. And there is tremendous diversity, and it's not a bad thing. Diversity is the word. If you really have got just sameness, the solution to diversity is not less diversity. The solution to diversity is not sameness. It is oneness. Oneness and sameness are very different. How do you find oneness? You have to find it in this diversity. A deeper oneness. In which, the old slogan, unity in diversity. So not only unity in diversity, oneness in diversity. And Vedanta finds this oneness. What is this oneness? The first pass at it in the first mantra is Isha. You call it Brahman, Paramatman, God, Allah. There is some divine oneness in this entire universe. But it goes deeper than that. In the 6th and 7th mantras we are told this divine oneness, this godly oneness in all beings, which sounds very wonderful, but a radical, like a bomb explosion. That oneness is you, the self. We do not know who or what we are. Now there is a great search for what is consciousness. Because when we investigate ourselves, we find one essential thing about ourselves. We are bodily creatures, no doubt. We are mental and intellectual creatures, one knows, but consciousness. Consciousness now we are beginning to see in this 20th century, 21st century, that what is consciousness has become a great area of study. If you Google it, you will find tremendous amount of work is going on. It's one of the hottest areas of investigation. Not much success. One sign of success in science is if you try to investigate something, gravity or whatever it is, or the movement of the planets, you might have multiple theories, but as we advance in our knowledge, it will narrow down to one theory. This is the explanation for what is going on. Multiple ideas, competing ideas, then you will gather evidence, you will argue about it, and then science will come to a conclusion. This is the explanation. Multiple theories will collapse into one explanation. That can be developed further again. Right now, do you know how many theories of consciousness are there? Just today, somebody sent me an email that a map of the theories of consciousness existing in the world today, right now. They have identified 325 different theories. 325 different theories. It just shows that the field is immature. When the field is mature, you begin to narrow down to some probable explanations of it. So 300 different, but it just shows the great interest there is now. So consciousness is our real nature. That not only Vedanta, but today in the 21st century, in the field of consciousness studies, we are coming to that idea. That consciousness is one of the great last frontiers of scientific inquiry. What is it? What is this consciousness? And here in the Isha Upanishad, we find in the 6th and 7th mantras, this oneness of all existence. It points to you, the self. And the self, what do you mean by the self? Not bodily self, not mental self, not intellectual self, not even racial, economic, national self. Self as consciousness. As I said, I am enjoying myself. So at this point, I would go into the question of how am I consciousness, Drigdrishya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, all those techniques. I am assuming your advanced students, you have already done that, you know all those things. We are going to go ahead, we are going to jump ahead into more profound, deeper waters. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmanyeva anupashyati. When you see all beings in the self. Now we are going to deep dive into that. What do you mean seeing all beings in the self? How is that possible? The moment I say I, me, myself, I am distinct from you. How can I see all of you in myself? Now I'm going to begin here in a pretty advanced level. I'm going to begin here as we are all thinking of ourselves as consciousness. We are all thinking of ourselves as awareness, consciousness, chaitanya, chit. Not as body, not as mind. That part of the hard work has been done. Now we are thinking of ourselves as consciousness. Now what? Look at the language of the mantra. We are taking a deep dive into Advaita Vedanta here. Okay, this is a master, what do you call it? Master class. Advanced class. And this is because this is Geneva, the city of the United Nations, a city of high idealism. So we're going to take a master class in idealism. A deep dive into non-duality. Look at the language of the mantra. I want to first focus precisely on the words used. Sarvani bhutani atmanyeva anupashyati. All beings are seen in the self. In the self. Look at the language. The language is one of container contained. Atmani eva, in the self. In Sanskrit, there is a term used, adhara adheya. The supporter and the supported. The table is the supporter, and what is supported? Clock, tablecloth, flower, bottle, they are all supported in it. Container contained, supporter supported. In the physical universe, you can do this. You can say, see that all the clock and the flower and the phone and the bottle, they are all on the table. See all the objects on the table. That you can do for a physical object like table, physical object like clock and bottle and so on. But when it comes to consciousness, what are we talking about? Seeing all beings in the self. What is the self? What are you? You have to say now. Consciousness. I am consciousness. Supposing. We have already come to that position. I am awareness. I am consciousness. Now when I say seeing all beings in the self, in a physical thing, you can say physical, these objects can be put on it or put inside it also if it is a box. But when it comes to consciousness, what happens? the objects which we are aware of in consciousness. In consciousness, you are all aware. I'm all aware. And what are we aware of? We are aware of objects. I'm aware of this room. I'm aware of so many people. I'm aware of the furniture and the decorations and the carpet and the shrine. All of this I'm aware of. These are objects to awareness. One brilliant philosopher working in Indian philosophy, Professor Arindam Chakravarti, he defined object. Humorously. He's half humorous, half serious. He has a wonderful way with words. So define what is an object. Anything that objects to your consciousness is an object. Anything that objects to your consciousness is an object. It's a nice way of understanding an object. Think of consciousness like a field, like light or a field which is spreading out. And then what happens? This field of consciousness spreading out hits microphone, table, color, shape, sound, smell, taste, touch, thought, emotion, idea. All of these are objects. As consciousness, like light, you are spreading out and you hit these objects, then what do you say? Ah, I see, I hear, I smell, I taste, I touch, I think, I feel, I understand, I remember. All of these, what we call life experiences, these are all consciousness running up against objects. Where is the diversity? Diversity is in these objects. What are we trying to do? Remember, establish oneness. We're trying to find something underneath one reality, like water in all the waves of Lake Geneva. Now, what is the relationship between objects and consciousness? Why am I asking this? Container contained, Aadhar adheya, supporter supported. Here, table and object. What is the relationship? You will say, yeah, the table is a physical object, and these are all other kinds of objects, and then put them on top of the table. This is how you contain something physically. You support something physically. But in consciousness, you will notice one common thing. All the objects which you experience, which we all experience, they are all appearances in consciousness. They are all appearances in consciousness. You cannot put a physical object like a clock in consciousness, on top of consciousness. You can't. I am the self. I am consciousness. And I am aware of the universe. Now what do we have? What result do we have? The universe consists of objects appearing in consciousness. This is the meaning of Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmanyevan pashyati. In the Atma, in consciousness, when you see all the entities of the universe, they appear in you. Two examples will make this clear. Shankaracharya uses these examples. In Vedanta, use examples. One example is a classic example of mirror. Nowadays, computer screen or phone screen might be better. In those days, they had mirrors. The problem with the mirror and reflection example is, the moment I say you see things in the mirror, we always have this feeling things are outside also. They are being reflected in the mirror. Shankaracharya has to work hard to prevent us from thinking too much. Forget those things outside. Just see the mirror and the objects reflected in the mirror, not the objects outside. But now with the screens and all that, no object outside. Here itself you will see only things. Now, the question is, these objects, you see them all in the mirror. You see people in the mirror, you see roads in the mirror, and you can see vehicles and sky and trees. Are there objects, are there people, roads, vehicles, sky, tree in the mirror? No, in the mirror what is there? Only mirror. If you touch a tree seen in the mirror, what will you touch? You will touch the mirror. You will not touch a tree. If you see the road going in this mirror, if you touch it, you will not touch the road. You will touch the mirror. In fact, though the entire city appears in the mirror, it is mirror and mirror only. I am quoting from those who have studied Dakshinamurti Stotram of Shankaracharya. Vishwam darpana drishyamana nagari tulyam nijantargatam. The entire universe is like a city seen in a mirror. What is the universe like? City. What is the mirror? Consciousness. You. Nijantargatam, within oneself. So, Everywhere you see the appearance of a road, of a person, of a tree. If you touch it, if you see, examine closely, what will you find? Mirror, 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 mirror. Another even more sophisticated example is the dream example. In our dreams, suppose you are walking with people and talking, and you are seeing the sky and the beautiful scenery and trees and greenery and all this thing around, and you wake up. Then you realize, what do you realize? You realize, oh, the sky and the lake and the greenery, they were all nothing but my mind. My mind alone became all that in the dreams. It appeared as all that. Not only that, my dreaming mind appeared as me also in the dream, who was walking along there. Subject and object in the dream are what? The dreaming mind. What is the underlying oneness in all the objects in the dream? The dreaming mind, including subject also. The dreaming mind, the dreamer. What is the underlying unity of all the objects seen in the mirror? The mirror. Similarly, the conclusion here is, the teaching here is, that what is the underlying reality of all objects seen in consciousness? What is the reality? The reality is consciousness. Let me recap that, if I'm moving too fast. The Upanishad says, when you see all beings in the self. What is the self? We have agreed. We shall, at least for the time being, we shall think of ourselves as consciousness. What does it mean to see all beings in the self? In consciousness, all things appear as objects. Remember, in consciousness, you cannot put actual objects, like physical objects, in consciousness. Like this, there it'll all come as appearances in consciousness. Objects in consciousness means appearances in consciousness. What do you mean by the language of appearance in consciousness? We use two examples, mirror example and dream example. Whatever you see as reflection in the mirror is mirror only. Whatever you see in the dream is dreamer or the dreaming mind only. Whatever you see in consciousness is consciousness only. Although appearing as a human being, as a plant, an animal, a sky, an earth, as big and small, as there and here, all of that, time and space and object, all of them appear in consciousness, but they are actually nothing other than consciousness. This I am trying to say with the help of the mirror example and the dream example. Notice how this is different from a physical entity. If you say, see all the objects on the table. What is there on the table? Clock, flower, phone, bottle. You cannot say clock, phone, bottle and flower are table. You cannot say. In the physical world it's not possible. It's not true. But in consciousness it is true. Whatever you see in consciousness, that is the claim. Whatever you see in consciousness is an appearance in consciousness. Whatever appears in consciousness is actually underlying nothing other than consciousness. This concept, all of which I said till now, in Vedanta one word is used. Adhyasa, superimposition. Taking one thing for another. When I see in consciousness, human being, chair, building, shrine. But what is it really? You are taking consciousness as a human being, consciousness as a chair, consciousness as a shrine. This is adhyasa, superimposition. And here is a subtle point. Whatever is superimposed, whatever is an appearance, the English word appearance has one meaning, falsity. He appears to be very nice. What does it mean? Not nice. The word, it appears as an object in consciousness. What does it mean? It's not an object. Appearances in consciousness means they are appearing as separate objects, human beings, different, but they are not separate actually. They are consciousness alone. So whatever is superimposed upon consciousness, this word disturbs many people. In Vedanta it is called false appearance, mithya. The superimposed object is mithya. What is it really? It is consciousness. What does it look like? Human being, plant, animal, material object, mental object. That is the differences we see. They appear to be different, but really the difference is not real. There is an underlying oneness consciousness, and that consciousness you are. We are all one there. I want us to hold on to this last part. The appearance must be false. By the very word appearance. This is the meaning of Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. In Vedanta we say Brahman is real, the world is false. In what sense? In this sense. Not that the world is nothing. The world is actually, people think that in Vedanta you are dismissing the world. You are downgrading the world. You are denying the world. But in one sense, Vedanta is deifying the world. Vedanta is upgrading the world. Economic to first class. Upgrade. You have got upgrade. Congratulations. Instead of the world being world, now we are beginning to see the world is Brahman. The world is actually in reality, in the condition of knowledge, when we know it, it is Brahman. It is the absolute. It's existence, consciousness, bliss. In religious terms, it is God. Is it a dismissal of the world or an upgradation of the world? In one sense, you have upgraded. In one sense, it is false. As it appears, it is an appearance. But in reality, it is none other than the divine. So, it is not negative or world denying, it's world upgrading. Vivekananda says, Vedanta does not actually make the world unreal. It does not dismiss the world, it explains the world. What is the world truly? Vedanta wants to tell us that. It is truly Brahman, Isha. And what is that Brahman or Isha? You. Which you? Not the body you, not the individual you. The real you, which is limitless consciousness. Why did I say limitless? Each word is heavy with meaning, is pregnant with meaning. Why did I say limitless? The moment you say limitless, the moment you say consciousness is limitless, you mean it is one underlying reality. Like if I say all the waves are limitless water. What do I mean by that? Each wave is different from the other. Limited. This one is one wave, that's another wave. The moment you say it is water, it becomes one water. Similarly, the moment you say consciousness, it becomes one consciousness, no longer limited. Our separation is bodily separation. Our separation is mental or personality separation. What is the difference in races? Body. What is the difference in gender? In America, it's a big deal now. In New York, where I come from, there are 23 legal genders. Not legal tender, which is money. This is gender, 23. On what basis? It is body and mind, a physical and a mental thing. These differences are at the physical level or mental level. But once you see yourself as consciousness, as understood in Vedanta, which is one of the 325 theories. Luckily, they have included the Advaitic theory of consciousness in the 325 theories. The commentator said, not that we have too many theories of consciousness. We lack one more theory, which is 325 are there. We need one more. If science says correct explanation must be one theory finally, then that one theory we are still lacking. 325, we need 325 plus one, which will explain the whole thing. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmanyeva anupashyati. Okay so far? Even if you are not, I'll go ahead. Little bit more I want to say. All that we have done now, till now, will be put in danger by the next words. Whole thing will come crashing down. The next word is Sarva Bhuteshu Chatmanam. See, in all beings you see the self. Let me translate that 6 months again. When you see all beings in the self, up to this we have explained, all beings in the self. How do you see all beings in the self? As in consciousness. Appearances in consciousness, superimposition, adhyasa. So one consciousness alone. All beings are appearances, dream-like, like reflections in a mirror. But the next words, this is the beauty of the Upanishad. It pulls the rug out from underneath our feet. All our nice theories will come crashing down. What is the next words? Next half verse? Sarva bhuteshu chatmanam. And you see the self in all beings. What was the first part? all beings in the self. In our language, everything in consciousness. Then everything is an appearance in consciousness. Now what is he doing? He is reversing it. He is saying the self in all beings. In our terms, it means then all beings become the container and consciousness becomes the contained. All beings become the support and the consciousness becomes the supported. All beings become the reality and consciousness becomes the appearance. This is very dangerous from our perspective. Whole of Advaita will crumble here. Why? Because whatever is, remember, the rule is whatever is superimposed is an appearance, is false, mithya. As long as we said consciousness is the underlying reality and all beings are superimposed on consciousness, we were fine. Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya. But now reverse it. Upanishad says consciousness is superimposed on all beings. Sarva Bhuteshu Chatmanam. Then in that case all beings become the reality and consciousness becomes an appearance. You are not following me. It's just like snake and rope. The rope is mistaken for the snake. There is actually a rope. By mistake we are seeing it as the snake. So the language we are using, the technical language in Vedanta is that the snake is superimposed and the rope is the reality. So that which is on which something is superimposed, that superimposed thing, the snake, it is false. And that on which something is superimposed, that is real. Now if you reverse it, like if you're saying the snake seen as a rope, in that case the snake will become real and the rope will become false. Yes, sometimes you can have that error. Sometimes one can have that error. You're walking along, you have read a lot of Vedanta, you see a snake, you say, it is actually a snake seen and it must be a rope. Then it does like this, hiss, and looks, and you get scared. Oh my God, it is really a snake. So I mistook the snake for a rope. Because the rope was, I superimposed an unreal rope on a real snake because of too much Vedantic study. Vedanta is using the example that sometimes we mistake rope as snake. So similarly, Brahman is mistaken as the word. But if you misuse that example, actually there is a snake and I did not know it's a snake. I saw it in distance, it looks like a snake, but it must be a rope. Because Vedanta tells me, it looks like a snake, it's a rope. And then the snake will start chasing you. Then you realize, oh my God, it's a real snake. That is happening to us now. The Upanishad is not behaving well. Upanishad is not following our system. We said that all beings are appearances in consciousness. Very good. It works beautifully. They are like the snake and consciousness is like the rope. Underneath all beings, there is one consciousness. Advaita is established, finished. Let's go home. No, Upanishad goes further and then spoils everything. It says, now see the self in all beings. Consciousness on the snake, the rope on the snake. The problem is in that case, consciousness will become false. Whatever is superimposed will become false. And that, or the differences of all beings, the material beings, the body, mind, that will become real then. What does it mean? Why did the Upanishad do this? See, that's why I'm calling this an advanced class. This is something I have not mentioned earlier. Little difficult to get, but not very difficult. Even this technique which we used, superimposition, adhyasa, it's a technique. It's not a teaching of ultimate reality. It's a technique to come to oneness. Suppose you take this technique to be real. What technique? Superimposition, adhyasa. If you take it to be real, what will you be left with? You will be left with one Brahman and this world will still appear. False world. I am Brahman. I am pure consciousness. Congratulations. What about the rest? Oh, it is all appearance. It is a dream. It's like reflection in a mirror. It's like snake in the rope. Swami said so. And logically also, in consciousness, things appear. So you're all appearances in consciousness. I am consciousness. You're all appearances. This is not a good position to be in. This will lead to denial of the world. Why should I care about immigrants? Why should I care about race? Why should I care about the rights of workers? What is that? In ILO is there. Why should I care about world health? It's all appearance. COVID, let it be. No, let it be. I don't care. It's an appearance. I am consciousness. COVID will kill the body, doesn't matter. Body is an appearance, COVID is an appearance. Consciousness will still remain. I am the awareness everywhere. I don't care about, just as I don't care about the dream, I will not care about the dream. You have not taught me, just as we have dreams and all the differences are there, but underlying the dreamer is the reality. Good, I like that idea. I am Brahman, I am pure consciousness, and all differences are appearing in me. They are all dream-like. They are like reflections. They are all false, mithya. This is the consequence. This is the consequence. If you are a strict, all-renouncing monk living on top of the Himalayas, to some extent you can carry on with this kind of philosophy. You can carry on. At the most you may need one meal a day, and you're living in a little cave or a hut, and if you're very strong-willed, you can dismiss the body and its problems also. Then you can say, I am pure consciousness, the world is an appearance. Very difficult, even then it's difficult. And it certainly is not practical in the world. Try to live like that, your life will fall apart. Somebody told me, New York, working in Wall Street, said, I like this idea. Vivatta, ajatavada, the non-origination of things. Just one pure consciousness. I don't care for anything. He said, after some time my life became full of suffering. Vedanta said that it will remove my suffering and give me bliss. Just opposite happened. It's nice to argue and have this view, but if you try to live according to it, it's first of all very difficult, second very damaging to your practical life. Like I don't care about anything, that kind of thing. This is a misunderstanding. So final correction is necessary. What is that correction? It is coming now. That yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevan pashyati sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam. To see the self in all beings. You abandon that idea that there is a real Brahman and a false world. I am reality and everything is a dream. You abandon that idea. Then what is remaining? Oneness alone is remaining. Not one word, one Brahman and false world. That falsity itself is abandoned and the oneness alone remains. I remember, Maharaj will remember, there was a very senior Swami, Nirmuktanandaji, Upen Maharaj in Belur Math. He was a disciple of Mahapurush Swami Shivanandaji. Very great Swami, wonderful Swami. One day he was sitting near Mother's temple, on Mother's temple actually, on the bank of the Ganga, and I went and asked him a question. I had a feeling that he is an enlightened person. So I went and asked him a question. He was nearly 100 years old at that time. I said, Swami, how does an enlightened being see this world? Does he see as one consciousness and the whole world shadow-like, dream-like? What is working in my mind? One consciousness and adhyasa, superimposition, appearance. World is an appearance. He thought for just a second and he said, no, why should that be? There is only one. In Bengali he said, no, ta keno hobe, ektai ache. There is only one. There is not two. I am also saying there is not two. There is one Brahman and false world. That is, false world cannot be counted. If you say one cookie and one imaginary cookie. How many cookies are there? One cookie. So I am saying one real Brahman and one imaginary world. So only one Brahman. Technically correct. But this is not realization. It's an argument. It's an argument to erase our sense of difference. After you have erased the sense of difference and established oneness, you must let go of that argument also. If you leave that argument, it will poison your life. I will refer to a great opponent of Vedantins, Nagarjuna, Shunyavadi, the school of emptiness in Buddhism. In his Moola Madhyamaka Karika, root verses on the middle way, he says that Shunyata, emptiness, is the remedy for all evils. For your samsara, Shunyata is the remedy. Emptiness is the remedy. You must see emptiness. But those who take emptiness as another reality, there is no help for them. Emptiness will rid you of samsara, but you must let go of emptiness also. So there is a whole section of the emptiness of emptiness. He uses a beautiful example. Yatha sarpo durgrihita, as a snake held in a wrong way. There is a snake catchers know the right way of holding a snake. If you by mistake you hold a snake in the wrong way, what will happen? It will bite you. He says misunderstanding shunyata, emptiness, to be a reality. Our whole world is empty. So what is the reality? What have we arrived at? Emptiness. Wrong. Similarly, falsity of the world. Jagat mithya, the whole world is an appearance, an illusion. That is one step only. Don't stop there. Don't stop with everything is false. Many people misunderstand Vedanta. I say, oh, it's all false. Never. That is catching the snake in the wrong way. Now you are forced to let go of that. And then what remains? Oneness alone. Not one world, one Brahman and one false world. As one Brahman alone. So then you will say, when you look at around this world, what is this? This is Brahman. Like that Swami said, there is only one. There is so much difference and ups and downs, and this is a subject, object. And go back to consciousness and appearance. Work through that whole process till you see consciousness alone. Now come back to this world and see everything is a play of consciousness. Ramana Maharshi, he said a beautiful statement. You remember, who am I? If you go to him with any question, all this lecture, he would say, this is all useless. First find out who is inquiring, who am I? Then what is this universe? Generally he would not say, he would say, ask, who is asking? But once he's explained, what is this universe? Rare place. He says, this universe is an expansion of the self, true self, capital S self. This universe is an expansion of the self. This universe is the self. Not that self is real, universe is false. This universe is the self. This universe is you. In order to explain that, these two have been put together. See all beings in the self, very good, and the self in all beings. It forces you to let go of that falsity factor which we used, like that emptiness, mithyatva, superimposition, all those metaphysical, somersaults which we turned. Having established oneness, let go of that, you are left only with oneness. Not oneness plus false universe, just oneness. One divinity, one existence, consciousness, bliss. What is that? It is you that consciousness. Two more points I will make and stop quickly, because questions are important. I hope we are getting a feel of it, what I am trying to say. Especially those who have studied Vedanta, for them this will be very fascinating, because I am giving sort of meta class on Vedanta. Instead of actually explaining Vedanta, I am giving a meta class on what's going on. Americans have a phrase, under the hood. If you lift the hood of the car, what's going on inside? This is the movement going on inside. The hood of Vedanta, if you lift it, this is the movement which is going on inside. Two more fun observations. In America, when you give talks, one thing you realize, cultural differences across the world. So in America, to be serious, you must be not serious. You have to be funny. You have to make jokes. If you don't make jokes and don't make the audience laugh, you are failed as a speaker. Just the opposite I found in Germany. If you make jokes, you are not a serious speaker, you are failed. You have to be serious. So I think Switzerland is more like Germany probably. So, in America also there are differences. In California and Boston, East Coast, West Coast. In California, when I used to give talks, good morning, and everybody will say, good morning, Swami. Someone will say, we love you, Swami. I went to and gave a talk in Boston. The audience was sitting there, unsmiling. And I said, good morning. Their expression is, what is so good about it? please go on. But two fun observations. From my perspective, fun, but actually very deep. So I would say these are also very serious observations. One is, in all this, you will notice what I have spoken about is what is called in Vedanta Mahavakya. Mahavakya. The great identity statements. What is the identity statements? Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Tattvamasi, you are that. Now notice. What I just spoke of the first mantra and the sixth and seventh mantras. What was in the first mantra? Isha vasyam idam sarvam. Isha, the God, Brahman, Atman, whatever you call it, the ultimate reality is all this. Idam sarvam, idam means here. Sarvam, all this. All this is God. Statement 1. Then you come to 6th mantra and 7th mantra. What was said? Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyeva nupashyati. When you see all this in the self, in yourself. What is statement 2? All this is equal to yourself. Now put these two statements together. What is the first statement? All this is equal to God. Second statement, all this is equal to you. Put them together. A is equal to B, B is equal to C. Then A is equal to C. In between, what is the term? All this. On one side, God. On one side, you. God is equal to all this is equal to you. Remove all this, what becomes, what you are left with, you tell me. God is equal to you. Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi, the central teaching of Vedanta, you're finding here. If you combine these two statements. In the first mantra, no mention of Atma. Isha vasyam idam sarvam. By God alone, all this has to be pervaded. In the 6th and 7th mantras, no mention of God. Everything is in the self only. The self is in everything. The self is the ultimate reality. God is the ultimate reality. And you put them together, the real nature of God and the real nature of the self are one and the same. Meister Eckhart, your neighbor here in Germany, 800 years ago, not now. He's one of the greatest of the Rhineland mystics. Meister Eckhart, one beautiful statement. The ground of my soul and the ground of God are one and the same ground. The reality of what I am and the reality of what God is one and the same. On the surface, God and I are very different, utterly different. So what you are saying is not sacrilegious. It's in depth when you investigate. When I am not I and God is not God, there is one underlying reality. I read a Sufi mystic who says, when I searched for Allah, I found myself. When I searched for myself, I found Allah. Same thing. Consequences of this are tremendous. Sri Ramakrishna Shiva Jnani Jiva Seva. Serve all beings knowing them to be Shiva. Serve all Jivas knowing them to be Shiva. Why do we serve others? Oh, because we are all brothers, sisters. Okay, that's one explanation. Why do you serve others? They're all God's children. That's all one explanation. But here he's saying, you serve others, your worship of God in the service of the others is the same, literally the same thing. Because that God alone is appearing as all these others. So this is one fun observation. What is the observation? In these mantras you find implicit Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, you are that. And this is the underlying, under the hood. Last, we have run out of time. Really fun observation. I liked it, that's why I'm sharing with you. These Pandits, they like playing with these terms. So one Pandit, look at the word Vijanata. It is found in that 7th mantra. Vijanata. Literally it means the one who knows. The one who sees all beings in the self and the self in all beings. But I'm quoting from one Pandit. What a beautiful analysis. This is, you have to know a little bit of Sanskrit here. You don't have to know, but let me just tell you. Vijanata, the word Janata means the one who knows. Vijanata, V is a prefix. And this Pandit plays on just that prefix. Vijanata. Vijanata, the word, the V in front of Vijanata. He plays on that and gets out 3 meanings. The whole of Vedanta is covered there in those 3 meanings. Viruddham janata, viparitam janata, loka buddhim viparitam janata. One who knows contrary to all that is ordinarily understood. Viparitam janata. Then what is the second meaning? Vivichya janata. Third meaning, visheshya janata. The one who knows contrary to all ordinary understanding. What is ordinary understanding? Difference. Difference. And what does the enlightened one know? Oneness. So, viparitam, loka buddhim viparitam janata. One who knows contrary to ordinary understanding of people. What is the ordinary understanding? This is samsara. What is the enlightened one's understanding? This is nirvana. The Tibetan Buddhists have a beautiful way of putting it. The primordial ground of being. In ignorance, it appears to be samsara. In knowledge, that same primordial ground of being appears to be nirvana. The same thing is samsara, the same thing is nirvana. That's why Nagarjuna said, there is not the slightest difference between samsara and nirvana. It is a stunning statement for a Buddhist to make. Because what is Buddhism? It is the journey from samsara to nirvana. From this mess of a worldly life to freedom. And Nagarjuna is saying there is not the slightest difference. What does he mean there? There is a huge difference. But what does he mean there? He means it is this very thing. To us it appears as samsara. To the enlightened one this will appear to as nirvana. So, contrary, viparitam janata. The second one is vivichya janata, which means, vivichya means to separate. From where the word viveka has come, Vivekananda, to separate reality from appearance. To separate reality from appearance. How do you do that? Not physically, by inquiry. That inquiry is called viveka, to separate the truth from the false, real from the unreal. What does this enlightened one do? Vivichya, by inquiry, by separation. How? What is the method? Whole of Vedanta you have to study. Method after method is there. Drigdrishya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, Avasthatra. They are all methods of Viveka, separation. So how does he know? What is the method? Vivichya, by Viveka, by inquiry into real and false. This one knows. All playing on the little prefix we. And the last one is a sort of cosmological play on the word we. Vishishya Janata. Same reality is known in association. There I cannot explain any further. I have to use the technical term upadhi. In various upadhis, you can do it this way. The same actor you see dressed up in various dresses. On the stage, emperor comes. On the stage, a beggar comes. On the stage, a queen comes. And somebody tells you, the emperor is the beggar, is the queen. You will say, how emperor can be beggar? Emperor is so powerful, beggar is so poor and helpless. How the beggar can be the queen? Beggar is this man, queen is a woman, and she is a royal woman. How they can be same? Only when you know the same actor is acting in three roles. As the king, as the beggar, and so skillful, acting as the queen. Same actor. Then you understand Vishishya Janata. What is the Vishesha, what is the Upadhi? Putting on the royal robe of the emperor and the dialogues of the emperor, he becomes as if is known as the emperor, is known as the beggar, is known as the queen. Similarly, there is one reality here, consciousness. Putting on the garb of a man, here is a man, here is a woman, here is a child, here is a black person, a white person, here is a transgender person, here is an animal, here is a tree, here is a mountain, here is a mote of dust. These are all different dresses being put on by that one. So Visheshya Janata, who knows the same reality appearing in 1,000 different forms everywhere. All of this, isn't it fun? Play on the word we. Vijanata. Anyway, one can go on like this. Let me do a peace chant. Then we have time, about 10-15 minutes for Q&A. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna. How do we do the Q&A, Maharaj? You can raise your hand and ask like
Yes, and we have a mic which will be given to the person who would like to ask a question. They just hold it near their mouth.
Yeah, because they are recording it.
Yes, for that.
So please raise your hand. Don't be shy. Yes, at the back there. Tell us your name and ask the question, and then we'll go to the gentleman there. You have to be aggressive about raising your hand so that our volunteer can see you. Tell us your name and ask the question.
My name is Sarah.
Yes.
I would like to thank you for your teachings. So I have. So my question is, so I'm a sheep that still ignores his lion. So when I see the UN doing nothing to help the Palestinian people, I'm broken. my brain knows that this is all consciousness. There is nothing but God, but my heart cannot follow. So is there an exercise that can help me understand this is pure divine, but not turn my eyes and makes me care of these people?
Yes. It's a very good question. Question of evil and suffering in this world. If it is one unbroken divine reality, why all this? Why so much suffering? Why so many conflicts? Is there an exercise which will help me to understand? Now, here is the exercise. First of all, follow this approach to see that I am pure consciousness. I am pure consciousness. I realize that. And everybody else also has to be that pure consciousness. And yet I see that after all that also, I am still Nasira.
Yeah.
Same body, same mind, also the same imperfections. But where are the imperfections? The imperfections are in the personality of Nasira, not in the real Nasira, which is pure consciousness. Similarly, all the problems that we see in this world are at the level of the physical or the subtle level. A person does evil not because that the person is a shaitan or an evil person. No, the evil lies in the mind personality of that, at the personality level, at the mind level of that person. It is like one light coming through in a church. You have seen stained glass windows. Inside the church it will look like red, blue, green. But if you go outside, it is one sunlight streaming through it. Similarly, through the prism of our mind, the same consciousness appears refracted in 1,000 different ways. Some are good, many are not good. What this does is, it shows you, from your own perspective, you will see the defects of the personality, but also the perfection of who you really are. Now it remains to manifest that perfection. More and more our thinking, our words and our life, if it reflects that our real nature, then the world will be a better place. The less it reflects our real nature, the world will become a more hellish place. That understanding is very helpful. What it will do? It will first of all show you are fine. Second, it will show everybody else is also fine. But it will also show why these problems are happening. At my personal level, I cannot claim I am perfect. Yes, pure consciousness, Atman, Brahman is perfect. The Absolute is perfect. But that Absolute expressing through mind and body of Sarvapriyananda, not at all perfect. Many problems are there. Many improvements can be made. At individual level, improvement can be made. At organizational level, improvement can be made. At community level, national level and world level also, improvement can be made. What is this improvement in this philosophy? It's a manifestation of the divinity already within us. It's an increasing recognition of our underlying oneness. Will it ever be perfect? Unlikely. When the reality is manifested, it will have some distortion. But that does not mean it's a hopeless task. We have changed the world to make it better and better, and yet there are there will continue to be cases of suffering and struggle. That much I can say. Yes, gentleman. Can you pass that to the gentleman? Please tell us your name and ask the question.
Namaste, Swamiji. My name is Sachin.
Yes.
My question is not on the practical side of Vedanta, which I think the talk was more about. I'm a teacher of philosophy of science, so my question is more on the intellectual side of Vedanta. I think the last work which took a critical analysis sort of Vedantic metaphysics and the theory of knowledge of Vedanta comes from probably the Vedanta Paribhasha was probably
Dharmaraja Advarindra, Vedanta Paribhasha.
After that, sort of the Vedanta has become a very practically a very important thing for self-transformation of people and societies, I think. But it has to, in my opinion, as a teacher, it has to take engagements with scientific and some of sort of the deadwoods of like past thinking and like those have to be given up, and scientific also findings have to be interpreted in light of Vedanta, like Schrödinger and others. I think you have talked about it quite well. My question is, that last work, it has not sort of carried on. So maybe from within the monastic orders, I think Dr. D.M. Datta was the last one, the 6 ways of knowing. But that was again from an academic perspective,
Yes.
not from a practitioner, which is what a monastic life is. So maybe.
Yes.
My question is like, do you have any plans on writing such a book, or maybe what are your thoughts on that?
Good question. I couldn't agree more with you. Absolutely. You have pointed out something nobody points out. Often, when I get lots of questions, most of them are repetitions. But occasionally, very occasionally, there is a new question, separate, something which I have not come across. This is one of them. This is something which is close to my heart. See, this is a big area. What is this area? Indian philosophy. Should it remain as history of philosophy, or should it be a living system of philosophy? What do I mean by that? Most of what we do is history of philosophy. The situation is a little more complicated there. In one sense, Indian philosophy is maybe the only living philosophy as such. Because we are practical Vedantists. We are living it. An argument could be, from the time of the Upanishads, from Yajnavalkya till today, there are people who follow this system of philosophy in a philosophical way, not so much in a religious way. And they practice it in their lives. They're trying to realize that ideal, and so it's a kind of a practical philosopher, living philosopher. So it's actually a living philosophy in the truest sense. Other philosophies where papers are being written and books are being written, in one sense they are dead philosophies, because they are only academic. There's nobody who's actually practicing in their lives, or even whether it can be practiced or not. There's no followers of the order of Wittgenstein and who have taken sannyasa in the name of Wittgenstein and following, or Berkeley or Russell. Nobody. These are academic exercises. But having said that, let me talk about what you are saying. Yes, there is an actual gap, an actual demand, an actual lacuna. What is the lacuna? Around 200 years ago, 300 years ago, the last remnants of Indian philosophizing, classical Indian philosophizing, ceased. Janardhan Ganeri has written a book, The Lost Age of Reason in India, which is, he said, the last Navyanaya philosophers or so in Mithila and all, they were there, not Mithila, sorry, Navadvip and all, that was the last, and then they stopped. If you see their children, they're probably here in Geneva or other places, they're scientists, engineers, doctors, no one is a Nayayika, no one is following the eye. So what happened is traditional Indian philosophizing faded away into, aren't there philosophers in India? Yes, but their work is mostly history of philosophy. Ramakrishna, celebrated, but what did he do? History of Indian philosophy. S.N. Dasgupta, even D.M. Datta, the book on D.M. Datta's book is basically a representation of ancient Indian theories of epistemology and into the 6 ways of knowledge. Our Swami Sarvapriyanandaji in St. Louis, he wrote also The Methods of Knowing, which is based on Dharmaraja Advarindra's Vedanta Paribhasha, which is the last major work on Vedantic epistemology, Advaitic epistemology. Even now, a lot of philosophizing is going on, but if you see the debates among Pandits in India, they are rehashing the ancient debates, 500-year-old debate, Advaita Siddhi and their counterattacks from the dualistic schools. That is what is going on even now. And if books are being written, even now books are being written, they are either recapitulating what has gone on earlier, or commenting on it, adding another layer of commentary, sub-commentary, sub-commentary, and so on. So this is fine as it goes. One argument in favor of this could be, why should you do anything more? These systems are complete. They will take you to enlightenment. Practice it as it is found in the text, and as the teachers today are teaching you, practice it, you will get enlightenment. Why further, writing papers, engaging with science? Well, 2 reasons. One is, we live in an age of science today. We live in the modern age, 20th, 21st century today. We would be living a kind of double life, a life of pretense, if we said my philosophical view is 1,000 years old and has nothing to do with what happened in the last 200 years. Strange. Second, these brains, Shankara, whom I was quoting today, Gaudapada, Shankara, Vachaspati Mishra, Udayanacharya, all of these, so many names are there, Nagarjuna, if they were alive today, would they or would they not engage with science? That kind of mind, just think what that kind of person would they engage with science or not? Of course they would. They would be very happy. And a classic example is Vivekananda. In late 19th century, when he goes to USA, whom does he engage with? Nikola Tesla. Tesla, the scientist, not the car. He engages with William James. He gives talks at Harvard University. So he is very interested. There is a correspondence between Tesla and Vivekananda on physics. So he is very interested. And so also, you are absolutely right, we also must be interested. But not just monastics, academicians, you. So I will put the ball back in your court to make it a living philosophy. Yes, thoroughly study the vast resources of the past, but study the challenges and 325 theories of consciousness. So can we not engage with them? Certainly. In that already Vedanta is included, but can we not engage? We can and we should engage. Here, I want to just mention just a little bit, 2-3 minutes. 2 weeks ago, I was telling Swami yesterday, I had a very interesting experience. Okay, I will tell. If any objections come, we can take down the video later on. I don't know how much of it is classified, how much not. There was a meeting in Venice, organized by a billionaire, Berggren. If you Google him, you will find homeless billionaire, also known as the philosopher billionaire. Very interesting person. So, he is very interested in, one of the things he's interested in is consciousness. So it was called a consciousness retreat towards a new theory of consciousness. Now only 12 people were invited, 14 people. Among them was the head of Google's AI research. Among them was the head of Google's quantum computing. Among them was one of the leading quantum physicists. Have somebody heard the name Carlo Rovelli? You have heard Carlo Rovelli? He's an Italian quantum physicist, but his books are very popular. Carlo Rovelli was there. There was one of the leading neuroscientists of the world today, Christoph Koch was there. Then one of the leading, if you Google top philosophers living today, at the very top the name will come. David Chalmers, he was there. There were neuroscientists like Anil Seth. Then I was a token monk representing. So it was a wonderful opportunity for me to interact with minds like this. It's, in computer science terms, if you have a higher clock speed, people whose minds are working at a much faster clock speed than yours, it's very exhilarating to be in their company. So most of them did not know much. They've heard of Vedanta, almost nothing. But I was amazed at how quick these people are on the pickup. Someone is a neuroscientist, someone is a philosopher, someone is a quantum physicist, someone is a quantum computing AI person. But just like that, 15-20 minutes of explanation, they've got the gist of it and they're asking very precise, intelligent, probing questions. I mean, I was enriched. I didn't expect to be, but I was enriched very much by this discussion. Now, this is at an informal level. It's very interesting, the format they had. Apart from formal interactions in an institute, giving talks, writing papers, question answer presentations, go on a walk. Vedantic monk and quantum computing expert, go on a walk in Venice. 1 hour you must walk and talk about your positions, argue, fight, whatever it is. You come back, then you write. What do you think about that person said? What do you think? What is your answer to that? And how does it change your position? What new thing comes out of it? I remember one particular walk I had on the in a garden of a 12th century monastery in Venice with the person who is leading cutting edge work in AI in one of the most advanced AIs in the world today, and one of the leading quantum physicists in the world today. And we talked about Vedanta. All three of us, we talked only about Vedanta and argued about Vedanta. And you know what the result was? It's quite interesting and thrilling. The result was not me. I am nobody on the academic world. These two people are heavyweights, literally heavyweights. They said, we must write a paper on quantum physics, AI and Vedanta. Joint paper. And they are far more up and doing than me. Already draft is ready by now. So this is the kind of work that has to be done. This is just in a small scale, but our responsibility is, as you're a philosopher of science, so to study Vedanta thoroughly. One book I will recommend for anybody who's interested, especially for you. You may know about it already. Have you heard of G.R. Malkani?
Yeah, I never read the book.
Ghansham Dayas Ratan Malkani, I think. Nobody reads him today, it's sort of forgotten. He has written a few books, Metaphysics of Advaita Vedanta and all that. What he has done is this. I knew about him once through a secondary source. One George Burke, in 1950s, he went from USA to India to meet living Advaitins and Advaitic philosophers, not monks, not practitioners, actual philosophers who are doing. So he met Kalidas Bhattacharya, who was son of K.C. Bhattacharya. He met T.R.B. Murthy. He met what is his name? Rakhal Bihari Das, I think. He's another great philosopher. And then he met this Malkani, who was the head of the Institute of Philosophy in Amalner. And he has a nice description of Malkani. He says, erect, wearing his kurta, immaculate white kurta and dhoti, interested in no philosophy except Advaita Vedanta. Interested in no Advaita Vedanta except his own. And he will not teach you anything unless you ask a question. Then he's a flood of erudition and light. So I became interested in reading his books. One old book I found in our library in New York. What he has done is very valuable for today, although I don't know, nobody engages with him today. He has, after absorbing the traditional Advaita Vedanta, he lets it go. He claims at least that I push it out of my mind. Now I think in today's way, in English, in our modern language, in our way of philosophizing, how can I come to the same conclusions? I am convinced of Advaita Vedanta, but I want to come to it on my own in today's language, in today's way, with today's arguments. Then he writes those. I enjoyed it thoroughly. This is something today you can engage with and you can continue this. Another person of the same type is K.C. Bhattacharya. But K.C. Bhattacharya is a little difficult.
He's from Hawaii.
That's Anandam Chakravarti, Hawaii. This is K.C. Bhattacharya, who has passed away. He passed away. He was in the 1930s, 40s. I think he passed away in the 50s. He was in Calcutta. He did studies in philosophy. 2 volumes are available. The problem with his works is he didn't write much, and whatever you get in 2 volumes, studies in philosophy, are scraps. You see the book, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, just one sentence. Like Wittgenstein, but not because of Wittgenstein did it with great craft and precision. This is because what he used to do is his son became the head of the Calcutta Philosophy Department. He published his father's works. He said, my father used to, after retirement, he would sit and write thoughts. Then would crumble up the page, tear it up and throw it away. And my mother would be sweeping the house and she swept away most of it. And I collected those scraps, and those scraps are what you see, the 2 volumes. So yeah, it's a little difficult to work through that. But he wrote one amazing article for our cultural heritage of India, the spiritual significance of Advaita Vedanta. That too only because Swami Swarupanandaji got hold of him and forced him to write at least one article. That one article itself is Advaita Vedanta, but you will not recognize it. It is completely rethought in a modern way. Totally different. And then, line by line, it is like you have to write a bhashya to explain it. Not that he uses difficult words, no difficult words. But the subtlety of his thought is very difficult to follow. Nowadays, Janardhan Ganeri is fascinated by it. So he reads Bhattacharya and then he explains it. And that's what he is doing as in his lectures. I saw him in Calcutta.
The sort of problem with Janardhan Bhatt is not problem, but his feature is that he comes from the Nyaya tradition.
Yes.
So his writing is more Bimal, Krishnamati.
Yes.
Advaita is sort of like, I think, the last major work, sort of like Advaitic work, was
Yes.
sort of Dharmaraja.
Advaita. But then I'm pointing to Malkani, K.C. Bhattacharya, just take a look. Ganeri, even Arindam Chakravarti, they are heavily inflected with Nyaya, a kind of positivism, and the influence of Bimal Krishna Matilal, of course, is very strong on all of them. Maybe one last one, because we have run out of time. Anyone can give? You have to be aggressive. Raise your hand. Yes, this lady here. Please tell us your name and ask.
My name is Gauri. I've been living in Geneva for 17 years now. I don't know if this is the right question to address you, but when you speak about something like Advaita, and it's on a global level, I think for these kind of discussions it works. But when it comes to the Varna Jati system of the Hindus in India and the traditions that they follow and the temples that they have to protect and the mantrams that they have to chant, where exactly does Advaita stand on this platform?
It is one of the mainstream traditions of Hinduism, one of the main paramparas of Hinduism, right? And it is not just one among many. As Vivekananda said, the reason he stressed Advaita was it is the one thing which is highly acceptable to a rational mind in today's world. And he said this more than 100 years ago. I literally see, I give you the example of my experience 2 weeks ago in Venice. Acceptable to the rational minds of today's world. I was just thinking, if I had approached those minds with Vaishnavism or Shaivism or Krishna Bhakti, they would have laughed me out. They would not have invited me in the first place. But because I'm going there on a platform of Advaita, the doors are open. It is, first of all, entirely rational. And it gives very profound truths. So that's one side of it. It is the acceptability of Advaita Vedanta. The second is what you're saying, the condition of Hinduism and what is the role of Advaita in it. I think Advaita Vedanta gives a robust, something for the Hindu identity to build upon and hold on to. Why? It is uniting. Why? From an Advaitic perspective, it's easy to accept Vaishnavism, Shaktaism, Shaivism. It's easy to accept Rama, Krishna. But if you take one particular sect, it's not easy to include the other sects. That is one advantage of Advaita, I can say.
It supports the Varna Jati.
No, you can say, notice, it supports Varna Jati, yes, throughout history it has done. If you see Shankara and the traditional Advaitins, they upheld the Varna Jati. But why? Always there was a subversive element in Advaita Vedanta. Because throughout the centuries, the other schools, they were suspicious of the Advaitins. One charge was, Prachanna Buddha, you're crypto-Buddhists. You sound like Buddhists. You're Hindus, but you sound like Buddhists. Another was this doctrine of falsity. If you introduce falsity, then what you're doing is you're relegating all our caste system, all our rules of our ancient Hindu society, you're relegating it to relative truth, mithya. And Advaita says, yes, it cannot be the ultimate truth. So Advaita, though it was marshaled in support of Varna and Jati throughout the centuries, I think is much truer to the original spirit of the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and the original scriptures. It may not go very well with the Smriti Shastras later on, but it can serve. For example, is Advaita Vedanta compatible with the modern constitution of India? Very much so. Plug and play. Is Advaita Vedanta, is a traditional devotional system compatible with the modern constitution of India? Not so easily. Is one of the old Smriti Shastras of India compatible with the modern constitution of India? No. There you will find multiple points of conflict. So Advaita Vedanta, someone like Swami Ranganathanandaji, president of our order, he said that the new Smriti of modern independent India is the constitution of India. And you can easily combine that with the spiritual system like Advaita Vedanta. So if you want to reform the Varna and Jati system, which is being done throughout India now, this has been the process for more than 100 years now. Advaita is a very good position to do it from. See, there are two ways of treating this problem. You go to the Bhagavad Gita. I see many people saying, here Krishna says, he has created the 4 Varnas. So Krishna is the Jatis, caste system. So here it is a religious justification for caste is being given. You can argue like that. Or you can argue, if you see the message of the Bhagavad Gita, it's deeply subversive of caste. It says, in a Brahmin and in a cow and in a dog eater, you see the same. Nirdosham hi samam brahma. It is the most subversive to casteism as you can see. the teaching of absolute oneness. That there may be this appearance of caste and gender and race differences. Underlying, more fundamental is oneness.
If you don't mind my interrupting.
Yes, yes.
I'm actually in favor of the Shankaracharya's interpretation of the Varna Jati. I
Yes.
actually think that this is the way the system was evolved, and we should not bear the caste guilt of the ancestors from a Western perspective.
Yes.
So when it comes to that, certain traditions, I believe they should be left alone to pursue their path. And of course, the darshanas are very much a part of the Vedic system and all that. How do we protect it rather than dismantle it? That's what is more
Yes.
my concern.
That's why I say Advaita Vedanta has a very constructive approach. That was the approach of Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, of Gandhi, of protecting the essential, universal, rich features of Hinduism, traditional Hinduism. And that which seems to be outmoded, you will yourself accept that something gets outmoded. If you actually see the practices of the various castes and subcastes, you will clearly see they are accretions over the centuries. Something has been added, something has been deleted. It's continuously moving. You cannot argue exactly as I find it at the beginning of 20th century that I will freeze now for the next 1,000 years. Impossible. First of all, you will not succeed. If you try to do that, you will damage society and damage your own life. Always, the fact that Hinduism always had multiple smritis. There is Yajnavalkya Smriti, there is Manu Smriti, and so many Smritis, Raghunandan Smriti, so many Smritis are there. When you have so many codes of conduct of your life, that just means these codes are not absolute. That it evolves with time and with circumstance. So whatever is valuable, whatever is useful, that gives you so much freedom. Whatever is valuable and useful in your tradition, you must preserve it. Without preserving it, everything falls apart. That was Arjuna's lament in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And that this war will destroy everything. So, preserve what is useful and let go or change what is no longer useful or applicable. That is the constructive way. And Advaita gives you the freedom to do that. Yeah. Alright. Should we wrap up? We've already gone 15 minutes about that. We'll hold it. Do you want to ask a question? One final question? He has followed the instruction of aggressively raising his hand. So he should be given the chance of asking the question, and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you very much.
Just speak into it. Speak into
On the
it.
shiny side.
Tell us your name and ask the question.
You have beautifully described the human mind and always related it to Vedanta, and not much about the modern science. Then my friend here has gone away. He asked the question I wanted to ask you, and you have beautifully answered it. My next, I want to say it's a question. It's sort of a question. Human being, you said, is really the God. And that satisfied me a lot.
Yes.
We are the God. And we have progressed through fighting, killing, other things. And now in my lifetime, our population has increased, doubled, which is unusual. We are a greedy people for knowledge, for material, for everything else. In this process, this God, we have killed 70% of the biodiversity.
Okay, can you make the question more precise?
We being God, and that situation, we have increased ourselves, our power in every respect, science, whatever you call it. We are greedy for knowledge as well.
Yeah, but can you make it more precise? I mean, I think it's the background here.
How come that this does not make us use this knowledge to protect nature? Nature is a bigger God.
Okay, I think I get your question, sir. And the answer only can be yes, you're right. The answer can only be that we have done well, but we have to do better. How do you know you have done well? You yourself said, in my lifetime the population has doubled. Now, if we had done a miserable job of it, we would have disappeared from the face of this earth. So we are prospering, there's no doubt about it. But there's a great cost to that, the way we are going about it in the world. But we have this consciousness, like what you're talking about. We have this consciousness. You, sir, can tell us more than I, that in your lifetime, hasn't environmental consciousness become a little more widespread in the world? At least the awareness of the problem and some efforts at individual and international, national, international level try to arrest it is insufficient, totally insufficient, but it is there. So that ancient God is awakening in us. We have done well, we have to do better. Vivekananda said, always be positive and constructive about it. You are saying it in the context of India. He said, we have done well. I am here to tell you, my brothers and sisters, that we have done well, but we have to do better. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. We actually have another program after this, that's why a bit of a rush.
Our very heartfelt thanks to Revered Swami Sarvapriyanandaji for his wonderful talk on the Isha Upanishad and also answering your very well thought questions. I think there will be and could be more questions and answers, but yes, the false adjunct called time is coming in between us. In the afternoon, in the Permanent Mission of India, we have another talk by Revered Maharaj. I think we can't go and register it now because I think they have already submitted the list. And tomorrow Maharaj has a talk in the UN, which is not for the general listeners. It's like a meeting with some important stakeholders of UN. But yes, we end to start again. So I hope that in the near or in the future, we'll have Maharaj again. And we'll be very happy to have him again. We have recorded it. We will edit it accordingly and put it in our center's YouTube. And at the end, I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, Srimad Sarada Devi and Swami Vivekananda and all the teachers of all sects and paths of knowledge that today whatever we have heard from Revered Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, we may think on it and enrich ourselves and make our lives and this world a better place. So with this, we end our program. Some of you, if you have any personal questions, Revered Maharaj has said that he will be here in this place and he would be available to interact. At the back, as I said, we have kept some water, some chocolates and some nuts, etc. So please have it as you would want. And I welcome you all again and again to all of our activities in the center. So with this, we end here. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.